impression they've been through a lot of drinking today.
Yeah. As the afternoon session was just getting underway, one of the announcers, you weren't in the room, I don't know who said it, they're like, boy, the crowd is a very different temperature here. The crowd is different than it was this morning. I'm like, they've had 6 more hours to drink. What are we doing here? Of course it's different.
Brian's on the scene. Has it gotten rowdier? Even though the U.S. is losing, maybe that hasn't helped to have it be rowdier.
I've definitely blushed hearing some things today from the crowd, from the bleachers around me that I've been hearing from just random people saying things out loud to the European players. It's been an interesting day for sure. This is the first time that I've been on course for a Ryder Cup, and definitely interesting. The other PGA Tour events and the major championships that I've been to, there's been kind of, for the most part, golf etiquette and encouragement, but I haven't been at one really where there's been the booing and the jeering and the joke yelling out loud and the crowd reacting to misses. For the most part, though, I feel like it's been okay. I mean, obviously on TV, maybe you've heard something different. I've only been at the holes that I've heard, but overall, I think considering it was almost 80 degrees and sunny on a Friday here, and it feels like half of New York City is on the golf course right now. I think overall, at least, unless you could tell me something differently from the television coverage of it, I feel like it's been decently supported by the fans in a lighthearted way in some sense.
Yeah, I wouldn't know different. How many of these things were said by the president, by the way, that made you blush? Any? Or no? These were not. These were just random people.
Yeah. That was the first time that I had seen the president in person, and I was very fortunate. I know, Mike, I texted you about this, that I was able to take in the entire first tee experience from the seats right behind it for the afternoon 4-ball session. But that's when the president was there, and we had to go through a Secret Service check down in order to get into the first tee bleacher area. And I mean, just as many, troopers and Secret Service people that you would imagine that is around there, around the bleachers that holds 30,000 people, that it was definitely on display.
Well, it's been in terms of the crowds and the vibes, a somewhat typical Ryder Cup, how it's different from all other golf events. It's also been kind of typical on the scoreboard. Or am I saying too much there, Brian? I mean, the States have won the last 2 Ryder Cups at home. As we speak, they're down 5-2 with the final match of the day on 18 tied. So they could still get to 5-3. Maybe this is really big, isn't it? 5-3 might not feel like that bad a day.
I agree. Considering the number one player in the world who's supposed to be dominating did nothing and made nothing, and probably he's in line, though, with many on the U.S. team that didn't make any putts throughout the course of the day. I was out on the 11th hole. Back-to-back groups come through. Bryson's got a chance to make birdie. He doesn't. And then Rahm ends up making a putt. And then again with Fleetwood the next time coming through, it just seems and Scheffler had missed it too. So there's opportunities for the U.S. to kind of grab hold or put pressure back on. Both times they miss, kind of disappointment. And then the European player jumps right on the doorstep there and comes through with a putt. And I think how I feel about the clutchness of the European putting is something that I feel like I'm almost over exaggerating it, but I feel like that's all I watch. I watch the Americans have an opportunity to maybe get themselves either back in the match or grab hold of it. They miss putts, and then Europe always seems to be able to convert in those situations. The same handful of pressure players that always come through. It's Rose, it's Rory, it's Fleetwood. These guys just love this moment. I don't get it in the sense that why the Americans just seem to be unable to, in these pressure situations, not putt as well. I mean, Scheffler has dominated golf, and it's not like he hasn't beaten European players, but, man, he made nothing today overall. And I probably saw at least 5 or 6 of his holes where he was putting for a legit opportunity to make a putt and just didn't do it. So I don't know what happens with the U.S. in this situation, and maybe I am overstating it too. Like you said, it's not like they haven't been able to defend their home turf, and this isn't over yet, but it just feels like in my last 20 years of paying close attention to this event, anytime there's a clutch moment on the green, it always seems like Europe beats out the U.S.
Speaking of clutch moments, as you're talking here, all four players were about 100, between 110 and maybe Rory's 96 yards out. And Cantlay from the fairway just shanked a wedge into the bunker on the green side. So at least Burns is on and has a look at a birdie putt. We'll see what Rory does here. He's put his just about the same as Burns. And Lowry's outside of that. Yeah, he's on the green, but probably 10 feet further away. Anyway, on Scheffler, Brian, I wonder, we were talking a little bit in here, like how he spoke during the year about how his priorities are and how, these tournaments he wins and it leaves him not really feeling much in the hours and days afterward. I wonder if that's a window into him not really having an extra gear for something that the European team seems so invested in and emotionally up for. I wonder if Scheffler just can't really get there, and that's he's their best player. He's the best player in the world, but maybe it's a tough spot to have your best guy be wired the way he is.
I think it's a good point. I mean, I think the U.S. team top to bottom is not as deep as Europe, and I think we talked about that in our preview. And so if you have the best player, which on paper the U.S. do, he has to play. He has to, at very least, not lose you points. And he goes 0 for 2 today. So that's not obviously something that you'd want to have come through when this tournament ends up starting. I don't know. I go back to, like, who are the best players all time here in my adult lifetime here, the last 25, 30 years? Well, we know it's Scheffler, and then you probably go back to Tiger. Tiger's record in the Ryder Cup during team formats was a losing record. Now, singles, he ends up doing okay, but again, he's out there on his own. I don't want to compare Scheffler's attitude to Tiger's because they are different.
Right.
Tiger wanted to win all the time, but there's that same mentality of, like, how much do they value the Ryder Cup versus their major resume, their individual resume? And I don't want to say that Scheffler's not trying to win here in any sense, any harder than he would anywhere else, but man, he's able to raise his game to the best of anybody in these other individual tournaments, but this one so far, just lackluster from him. It's kind of similar to what we've seen from Tiger and Mickelson in the past when they've been criticized for being the best players in the world and not dominating in an event like this.
Cantlay playing out of the bunker on 18 green, matches tied here. Cantlay, Burns versus McIlroy, Lowry. Can you see it, Brian, by the way, from where you are, or no? Are you watching this too?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
So you'll have to take me through it here while we're watching here.
Cantlay plays out to maybe 6 feet, but at least two makeable birdie putts here around him. Brian Koziol at Bethpage for the Ryder Cup. On the other side, Fleetwood is one guy. I mean, Fleetwood developed a reputation this year in the States for blowing tournaments almost, like just failing to win. Then he wins the playoff, so he gets on the board there. 5-0 in these 4-ball format where they alternate shots. I feel like that's a really special set of traits for somebody to have a record like that, because I feel like they have to be able to keep their opponent out of trouble. Like guys hitting it into the tent and whatnot. I mean, probably Fleetwood is playing in a way where he's avoiding that. And I think maybe also, Brian, like there's a personality element to it with him that he sort of maybe is good at, and McIlroy might have said this morning when they played together, Fleetwood Mac, that he just is somebody that is easy to like and is maybe supportive after a miss, that kind of thing.
I would agree. I think he's really, really good at knowing how to play this format, that foursomes, that alternate shot format. He's very, very good at it. I think some of these players, they take this mentality on of like, okay, look, I am going to make sure no matter what, I don't end up putting my partner in trouble. And I think he does that really, really well. I think a lot of these European players do it really well. But for Fleetwood, who hasn't had in Ryder Cup experience, kind of maybe I don't know, use the word choke that we used earlier in the year when he individually couldn't get wins. I wonder how much confidence that really gave him, winning that FedEx Cup title, coming into this weekend, probably feeling like he's playing as good as anybody in the world right now. So for him, who's always played really well in these international events, now you throw in the fact, okay, I've kind of personally overcome what has been a real bugaboo for myself, which is closing out an individual tournament. Now he's got that under his belt. I think he's probably thinking this weekend is just, I'll go in terms of how he's feeling inside in between his two ears right now.
McIlroy and Burns here are, I think, really close together.
Yep.
And I'm not sure if they've already decided who will play. It looks like Burns will play first. It almost looks like Burns might be stepping on McIlroy's mark, but I guess not. Like, that would be an interesting one if he were to do that.
Sure would.
He'd want McIlroy to play first, but even if you're going to step into my mark in this situation, I might want you to play first.
Yeah, their putts are similar enough. I would think Rory would definitely want to get a read off of what Burns is doing here.
10 feet, Burns misses right. So we're not going to win. We might tie, but we're not going to win.
The best you can do is tie. If Rory makes this putt, then it's going to be 6-2 going into tomorrow.
Right. How about Rahm today, Brian? Did you get close to him? He put on a show, I thought.
I did. I watched him, and he was great. That hole on 11 I mentioned earlier, he made a real good putt. Yeah, he putted great, even off the first tee, like for him getting out there right away, performing with the pressure to start in the first group in both morning sessions and the afternoon sessions. He kind of led the charge and ended up, coming through with 2 points. For him, we know obviously going to live, he comes to the majors and then he's kind of up and down, and we're like, well, is he going to be back this year? He had some opportunities to maybe win in majors. He's a player I really, really like watching. I think I know he's got a little feisty attitude at times, but I still think, like, in terms of the PGA Tour players that left to go to live, I know Bryson probably is going to be one that everybody would want back just because he draws eyeballs and attention. He's entertaining. But I think Rahm is right there for me. If I would steal one back to watch regularly more on the PGA Tour, I think Rahm is a player that I'm really, really entertained by watching play. And I think he's got a little bit of all of us in ourselves, in the sense, not comparing our golf games, but, there's that frustration, kind of fierceness, that high competitive level, like if, whether it's golf or any other sport that you play. Like, I feel like we've all got a little of that inside of us. But at the same time, I think he also handles himself pretty well overall. I think he's a guy that's easy to root for.
McIlroy misses left, so the match ends in a tie, halved. 5.5 to 2.5 is the score going into Saturday. Do you have, so it's the same format tomorrow, foursomes and then four ball. Do you have any thoughts on, like, how the USA should line up to try to make a comeback here? Is there somebody who, like, Scheffler can't go to the bench, can he?
No. I know he's 0 for 2, but I think you have to play him. God, who do you more? I'm fine with not seeing Colin Morikawa play anymore. I feel like he's somebody that has just not performed well. I even questioned him being on the team at all. I guess big name-wise why he ends up getting on it, but I thought he was really bad today. I mean, I think probably Keegan's got to go back and say, look, even though maybe I had a plan for Saturday, maybe I've got to change it up a little, because there really wasn't much magic. The only two players that I feel like have had consistency together, and also in previous Ryder Cups, has been the Cantlay-Schauffele pairing. I don't know if Cantlay physically is maybe able to play again. Yeah. He went both today, but
both to 18.
Yeah, and those two, oh yeah, that's right. He go into distance. Those two are very close and very tight. So I feel like as long as Cantlay physically is able to do it, I think I throw them and him and Schauffele back together. I think you got to play Bryson and Scheffler again, even though they weren't as successful as they need to be. I just think their talent is too much to throw them away. Thomas is somebody that you probably have to throw back out there. Him and Cam Young did really well. They had their biggest win, so maybe that's another pair that you put out there together here to start the morning. If they lose another session tomorrow morning, it's going to feel mathematically like it's almost over, I feel like, at this point. I know it won't be officially, but, being down, 5.5, 2.5 right now,
right.
If you lose another session, could be 4 or 5 or something, 4.5, somewhere in that area. I feel like it's going to feel like an insurmountable margin at that point.
2.5 to 1.5 in the morning, which would be progress versus this morning, would make it 8 to 4. To your point,
right?
That doesn't sound good.
I wonder how Bradley's who we're talking about. He's the captain. He's the one who's got to make these choices. I wonder how that goes. Right? It feels a little bit like the manager going out to the mound. I'm thinking of Grady Little and Pedro Martinez in the 03 ALCS. Do you want to? How do you feel? Like, I'm good. I'm going to keep going. Like I feel like if Bradley goes to Cantlay, he's going to tell him, yeah, I want to go. But Bradley maybe should be thinking about the fact that he flubbed a 100-yard wedge shot into a green with a hole with the match still on the line. Maybe that's fatigue from having played 36 holes today.
And let's face it, they are playing at 7 something in the morning tomorrow, so It's not like it's going to be like a lot of recovery time in some sense. So even if there's something he wants to work on golf-wise, like, I don't know, what time are you waking up to do this? These guys have their routines, their breakfast, their stretching, their range work, their putting work. Like, I mean, you're probably talking a 4:30 to 5 a.m. wake-up call, beyond the fact of getting to the course, even if they are staying close. Like, there's a lot of logistics involved in that. So, yeah, maybe that's, full. Mike, you just said it, 2 full 18-hole matches. He was the last one off, so maybe that's something that he'll think about. But I don't know. I mean, who on the U.S. side today really said I deserve to go back out there? That's the thing. Like, I guess I could argue almost against all of them playing. That might be the easiest argument, is tell me why they shouldn't play, and I think I can probably give you a reason for all 12 of them.
Yeah, he really can't, not to pile on him here with this wedge shot he missed, but he had like a 2 or 3 footer that could have won them a hole. 2 holes before, I think, that he just missed too. And I don't know that that's fatigue, but I mean, he goated pretty hard at the end, I think.
Well, we know last year was a big story of the controversy, with him and McIlroy going at it and whatever it was with the hat and all that sort of stuff. If there's any U.S. player that's taking some ribbing from the small contingent of European fans, it's Cantlay, because he's standing over the ball forever. I did see over here on one of the greens, the European crowds, here and there's a collection of them counting out loud while Cantlay was standing over his putt. So yeah, it wasn't Sergio back here in 2002 for the U.S. Open when they were counting the waggles. That was very loud, but right. It reminded me of it in some small sense.
Right. And, interesting point about, we'll let you go here, Brian, how much time guys have to recover and, adjust. They're using all the daylight they have, pretty much. Like, maybe you have a little bit of time between rounds, but not much. I mean, you have to eat and rest a little bit, perhaps. But, I turned it on this morning at 6 and it was dark. I mean, none of this is a surprise. I know times and things. And, they're ending here at 6:15 and it's almost going to be dark, like an hour or hour and 20 or so.
And even being a little bit more Easter, I'm noticing it's darker earlier than it is in Western New York. So, I mean, it might be even a half hour less of daylight than we have at home.
On the back end, right.
Yeah.
Okay, hope it was a great day.
It really was. That was a bucket list thing for me. I'm looking forward to going back tomorrow to maybe watch it in a little different manner, but I really wanted to get to that first tee box. Mm-hmm. They had the national anthem playing. They had all the music playing in between, the announcements, the crowd reactions. Like, it lived up to it for sure. The spectating, I wouldn't say was maybe as good as other majors because it's only 4 groups. It's tougher to do it. But that first tee was definitely something I wanted to do at some point in my life, and I really, really enjoyed that hour and a half or so that I was there during that afternoon session when they all went off one.
Very nice. Thanks for your time, Brian.
Okay, guys, thanks. Have a great weekend.
Brian